On today's show, the Mavs are good. Get over it. What's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? Welcome here to the DLS Sports Studio. It's your favorite people covering your favorite team. My name is Bobby Corella. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you see, give the video a like. Thank you for subscribing. We got more than 11,000 subs here at the beautiful DLS Sports channel. I'm not alone in this endeavor. Kevin Gray is out today. We got an exciting...
You're not Kevin?
I am not Kevin.
Bobby, can you believe this? That's not Kevin.
I'm not Bobby.
Oh, man.
Oh, my
I'm
God.
so confused.
That is Tim Cato, though.
I'm totally
That's
lost.
him.
Are we sure of that? Can we be sure?
That is Tim Cato for sure. In my seat,
Yeah.
today's our Thursday. Kevin will be back tomorrow for the Raptors game. But in my seat today, on her Friday, she spent 9 years at Bally Sports, including 4-ish on the Mavs broadcast. She spent 2 years at the Mavs, and now she's the head of production here at DLS Sports. You might know her as Kit Kat, but the world knows her as Katia Viaba. Katia, what's up?
Hello. How's it going? I always throw it back to you. I still have never broken that habit. Hi.
What's up?
Hello.
What's up?
Hello.
How are you?
I asked...
Oh, nothing is up. I'm excited to be here joining you guys on the show. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
There we go.
Yeah. You spent all those years at those places, but she also spent a decade in our lives, making it better.
That's
I'm
right.
still in your life.
Oh, well, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's like, okay, you can go now.
Yeah, y'all like work together now. You know that, right?
We bullied Kat into doing this with us. So
Wait, the job or this show?
Honestly-
this segment specifically,
honestly,
but
both.
a little bit of both. So.
Honestly, both.
Oh, man.
So over the next hour, we are going to dive into the goings-on for this Mavs team. Of course, last night, crushing the Washington Wizards 137-101. And we said on the postgame show, didn't even feel like the Mavs played their best game. But as the cold open alerted you, the Mavs are effing good, and you're just going to have to deal with it. We're just going to all have to accept that our favorite team is just really, really good at basketball. And we're going to talk about that. We got Tim Legler, who joined KG for some analysis and breakdown of what's going on the court. That is coming up next. We're going to take y'all's questions in the third segment. And then in the fourth segment, Marc Stein is going to join us from... I truly don't know where he is. It's an undisclosed location because
Antarctica.
I think he was in Buffalo. I'm not sure he's there anymore. I do know he's not going to be here, but he will be somewhere on the road, and he'll give us some news and notes and maybe some other stuff from around the league. But first, Kat,
Hi.
you recognize that we were a little short on people
On
today.
talent? No. I'm just
And so we were like, Kat, we need you. We
You're not
need
wrong.
you to be on the show. We need you to be on the show.
But I think you need us for something as well.
True.
Oh, that's a great segue. So
I love teamwork.
I luck into them
Yeah.
every once in a while.
I love us.
Yeah. Here at DLLS, I produce the Cowboy Show. So I have been in the throes of the Dallas Cowboys season. So I have not really been able to keep up with the Mavs as much as I would like. So I thought it would be great if you guys could just give me the tea. Catch me up.
Are you ready to lock in?
I am.
Are you locking in now?
I have like 2 more weeks of like Cowboys, and then I'm like Mavs.
You're one of the Christmas Day NBA fans.
I will.
Yeah.
Yes, Christmas Day. Let's call that the day that I am now locked in.
Yeah, and I mean, you spent 10 years at Bally doing pregame, then doing game, then doing Mavs.
Yeah.
And now you're like in a totally different sport.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. I mean, the Cowboys.
Like, you can tell me all about Brock Hoffman, but what can you tell me about, Najee Marshall?
Well, after this
his
episode,
nickname is the Knife.
That is a great start.
After
That's
this
a great
episode, you're going to know
nickname.
everything.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I got questions, so.
Yeah, like what?
how does the team look this year compared to last year? Like chemistry wise, like on the court, like what's going on there? Like they added obviously Quentin Grimes, Najee Marshall, and Klay Thompson. So I just want to know like what that looks like now as opposed to last year.
It just, I don't know. I think it took a second. I was thinking back to the second game of the season when they lost to the Phoenix Suns, who were missing like half their roster. And I barely remember that game, but it was just, it wasn't this team yet. And it took some, Najee Marshall is somebody who is now beloved. I think he is literally on his way to becoming one of the most beloved role players. I know that's a crazy thing to say this early on. He's played like 20 games. I genuinely think that he's going to be like one of those fan favorites. Like if, depending on how long he sticks around, but 3-year contract.
Yep.
If he's instrumental to these teams doing really good things in the playoffs, he is on his way to be a Dorian Finney-Smith type beloved player. Is that an exaggeration?
Whoa.
Man,
it's really early.
Whoa.
It's really early.
Abby Jones off mic says she feels it.
Yeah.
Dorian has a special place in our
hearts.
Yeah.
In our hearts and in our minds and in our souls.
Well, because I remember when we signed, when the Mavs signed, that was when it was a we, because we were at the Mavs. I asked Bobby, I was like, can you do a little breakdown video for us? And he was like, yeah, I don't know. This guy just kind of came from the Pelicans, and like, he could be a thing. Like, he's a thing. He's a thing, and I think that's cool to see and hear.
But everybody kind of saw him as like they had Derrick Jones Jr. last season. They have Najee Marshall this season. Everybody loved Derrick Jones Jr., but at no point would I say Derrick Jones Jr. was on pace to become like a Dorian Finney-Smith type player for this team. I just, it feels a little bit different with Najee, and a lot of it is just the play style, the energy, the emotion. He's really, he's funny, but he's just very real, like very authentic. He's very authentic in the way that he talks.
Nice.
Like he's Mavs video, the social team has posted him like coming down the hallway after a big win and being like, GG's, W's in the chat. Like he's got that lingo down.
After they beat the Grizzlies, he posted a tweet as shout out to the Dallas Mavericks with a bunch of crying emojis.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
He's online.
Yeah. He's just having a good time.
I like it.
He was averaging 20 points when Luka was out and was like, can't wait for Luka to get back. And somebody was like real snippy about him, being like, well, you're not going to get as many touches or minutes or shots or attempts, or you're going to suck once he's back. And he's like, I can't wait for him to be back. Like he exactly knows his role. And I think that is something that is seemed very authentic, very real about him. Hasn't played the last couple games with this weird sickness, but everybody's way in on Najee Marshall.
Okay. So that kind of segues me to my next question, which I know Luka was out for a stretch of games. He's been back for 2 games now.
Yeah, 2 games. 3 games.
Three
games. 3 games now. Okay. Who do
you count last night as a game?
I mean, the 2 and 18.
Scrimmage.
Yeah. Okay.
The Zards gonna be a tough year for them.
Taking shots.
Gonna be a tough year for the Zards.
Yeah. So in his absence, it's always next man up. We've talked about this a million times. Like, who do you think, besides Najee, because obviously you just gave me the Najee answer, who else is someone that impressed you in that time?
PJ Washington.
Let's go.
A lot of double-doubles. PJ is like Tricks. Different kind of personas and attitudes. Although, like, Tricks was kind of about that. He was a talker.
Yeah.
He's
a fast talker.
Yeah.
I don't really know what he's saying half the time. I'm just like, yeah.
I don't even think his opponents do. I'm not sure that Sean Marion was intimidated because he was just like motor mouthing. But PJ's tough and everything. But like, outside of that OKC series last year, granted he was only on the team for 2 months or something before the playoffs. There was never really a game outside of that one Warriors game that Luka missed where he really popped off. But that stretch when Luka was out, he's had 5 double-doubles in his last 7 games or something. A lot of rebounds, a lot of hustle, a lot of juice. Just plays really hard. And for a really long time, we were watching that Mavs playoff run in 2020 in 22, doing post games. Kat and I used to stream on Twitch whenever we were both at the Mavs. And the hallmark of that team throughout that playoff run was Luka was so skilled, and Brunson was like, oh my God, this guy's really good. And then it was Dorian and Reggie just busting their ass every single trip down the floor. Yeah. And PJ plays with that same kind of just urgency, pants on fireness. But adds to it, Dorian and Reggie were both real thin. PJ is big and thick and strong. Okay. And he's got he's guarding bigs, but also is doing a really good job containing John Morant somehow. So like he can guard the same kind of guys that Reggie did. He has like the toughness of Dorian, but he's got the size of somebody else entirely. So it's just like he's been probably my favorite aspect of the season so far, even more than watching Kyrie just dominate. Kyrie's been incredible, but I think it's been so fun to watch PJ.
We know PJ. This is you locking into this season.
Correct.
You were watching the run to the finals. PJ's got better. I think that's an important thing. Like we are watching a player who's making a mini leap based off how important he was last season. I believe objectively, since he came back from his injury, and that did contribute to some of the slow start of this team, is that he was kind of weird for the first couple of weeks of the season. Yeah. It just wasn't quite as impactful.
The Mavs as a whole either start completely on fire or they start slow. Like there is no in between. Like in all the seasons that I've covered them.
If you would, when did we do the rivalry tier list? Was that before the losing streak?
It was
it was like right before the losing streak.
Oh my God. All right. So vibes were like fine back then. Dude.
Vibes were like 50-50
If you would have come on like 2 weeks ago, it would have been dreary.
Wait, I have something. So let me read a tweet that's on my timeline right now. Friend of the show, Jake Kemp of the Dumb Zone.
Shout out Jake.
Shout out Jake. Jake tweets, I have an announcement to make. This is the best Mavericks team in the history of the organization.
Woo! Wow.
Yeah.
And he's covered some
good
Jake, and bad teams.
I'm not dismissing that outright. I'm bad at doing strong opinions sometimes. I love to be like here's one side of the issue and here's the other side of the issue.
You're a fence rider?
It's a bad habit. But he might be right. But that's the thing. At no point from what you're picking up on the season did it feel
sitting on that fence like that guy across the way.
It would be like, this is a weird thing based off every inside jokes.
Sorry.
This isn't going to translate well to the medium. I'm not crazy. Like I know what he's saying, but like from the distance that you've seen what's happening so far this season, that feels insane, right?
I'm not one to ever get like super high, because one year we said they were going to win like 50 something games and they won.
That was the Christian Wood season.
Yeah. So we were all saying like Christian Wood, like, so I've learned to maybe wait a little bit, but I love that he said that.
Well,
like expectations can really shape how you see it, right? Because like the Mavs were so good last year after the trade deadline. Again, they were something like 16-2 in the games they tried, and then they go to the finals and they lose to the Celtics, and the Celtics are historically good. So the Mavs were like, worse than a historically good team. That's really, really, really good. The Celtics were better than any team, with the exception of maybe a couple Spurs teams that the Mavs faced in the playoffs during my lifetime.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that this year's team is better than the 22 team. This year's team, I think we all said, got better from last year's final team. So it stands to reason that it's one of the best,
Yeah.
The 2011 team is so good. It's just so good.
But I think the 2011 team, it's good. It's so good. But I feel like a lot of that is also like the nostalgia aspect and like how we feel about it as like having watched that and like the fandom part of it. Like, but like objectively looking at that team, like there was so many players on that team that you're like, it could have gone one way or the other.
Yeah.
They just came together at the right time, and like the right players had the hot, games.
Everyone had their moment.
Everyone had their moment in that run.
I can bring some quick stats to this. Dallas is, so we talked about net rating on the show last night. And
y'all got real nerdy.
It's not even nerdy.
We had a lot of time to kill after that game.
It's just how many points you outscore your opponents.
I heard y'all talked about Martha Stewart too.
We did talk about not on the show. Not on the show. We should have. So net rating. Dallas is and this is Basketball Reference stats. You're going to find different versions of net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating, depending on where you pull it from. But Basketball Reference laid it out easiest for me to pull these stats. I don't want to put extra work into it. Dallas is 5.6 points better than the league's relative offensive rating. So they're scoring, every game, every 100 possessions, they're scoring almost 6 points more than the average team. And then they're 2 points better defensively. So combine that, 7.6. When's the last time the Mavericks had a Plus
the defense numbers is what gets me here.
Yeah.
the defense. Yeah, I mean,
That's
2
been the thing
points
in the
isn't-
Luka era is like when they play good defense, they're really damn good.
Yeah.
So when's the last time that Dallas was 7.6 better than the league average
Right.
net rating? It wasn't the championship season. You're gonna say, oh well, it had to have been 2011.
2003.
It wasn't 2011. 2003. Yes, but more recently than that.
Oh,
Wasn't it the year that they had the record for the best offensive rating in the
They
NBA?
they were so they're 7.6 so far this season. They were 8.1 in the 06-07 season, the 67 win season.
They canceled that
Okay.
season.
They were not even this good by the numbers when they went to the finals in 2006. They were not this good in 2011. That was a team that was a very veteran. That was a savvy team. That was a team that was amazing in the clutch. And for reasons because of all the veterans, all of the KG veterans they had on the team, because they had that version of Dirk, it made sense. They just won a lot of close games. That was an advantage. They didn't need to blow teams out like this. But yeah, it's literally been since 06-07 and then before that 02-03 that this team has been this good relative to the average teams around them. And we think that Dallas is not playing their best basketball yet. We think Luka is just now starting to look like MVP Luka. We think that the role players who have come along in the past few weeks were not performing like this. Just for the first couple weeks of the season, we think that who else? Daniel Gafford was starting a lot of games, and we love Daniel Gafford. He's a great backup center, but he shouldn't have been starting over Derek Lively, and Derek Lively is coming into his own. There's a lot of reasons to think that this team is getting better and already relative to a lot of teams, they're like the third or fourth best team so far statistically that this organization has ever seen. By the end of the year, they could be even higher.
Kat, thanks
for having
hanging.
me.
Yeah.
We got to hit a break. Otherwise, you're going to yell at me.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
the chat.
When we
in
miss
the
our
chat,
breaks, she lets us know.
I do. I'm the one.
Do
Yeah.
you feel locked in though?
I do. You guys
Are you
definitely
going to be here
caught me
tomorrow
up.
night to watch the Toronto Raptors with us?
I will not.
dinosaurs.
But since they're playing the Raptors tomorrow in the chat, who would win in a foot race, a velociraptor or a horse?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Me.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Coming up next,
Hit
we're
that
going to
chair.
hear some basketball takes from basketball analyst, former player, former Dallas Maverick, actually, Tim Legler. Make sure you stick around. But first, your boy loves concerts. I love live shows. I love going to games, but concerts most of all. But the thing about going to these big stadiums is that sometimes you don't really know like what Section 4 actually means, what row L actually means. Where am I in relation to like the big sound booth, or where am I in relation to big pillars that could block my view or whatever? But Game Time, if you use Game Times to buy your picks, then you are going to get
Did
a
you see it in
panoramic
view of something that should be private.
Yeah, you can. But you're going to get a
Maybe you can look
panoramic
out the
view
window
from your
of your
seat in the app before you buy. They also have all-in pricing, so you know exactly how much you're paying up front. You're not going to have any surprise fees at checkout and like, oh my God, this is $200 more than I thought it was. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create account and redeem code DLLS to save yourself $20. Download Game Time today. Kat, what time is it?
Game time.
Woo!
Let's talk about floors. With Empower today, you get what's that? You could have stayed for floors, but it's okay. I'm going to power through by myself. With Empower today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empower today is the best place to get new flooring. So of course they have copycats, but Empower today can't be beaten on quality, service, speed. So competitors advertise low quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anybody who does that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in yours. They
Grifters.
wouldn't put in theirs. They would put it in yours, and that's the problem. Hooligans. Unbelievable. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Some restrictions do apply, but if you want the best floors on the market, the floors we trust, see empowertoday.com/DLLS for details.
One other thing I think that this year's Mav team has in common with potentially that 2011 team is they just kind of know how to win the game that's in front of them. You know, some teams like that 2019-20 Mavs team, the best offense of all time, they just played offense, and if that worked, great. If it didn't work, oh my God, we're going to lose. This year's Mavs team, they will find a way to win the game. They're playing one game 82 times as opposed to 82 games one time. And that was a hallmark of that title team. How many times do they make comebacks? How many times do they win in different ways? And they were capable of winning in so many different ways. But of course, one big difference between this year's team and that year's team is that year's team won the championship. Can this year's team win the championship? One man, one very powerful, all-knowing, big-brained, beautiful man named Tim Legler believes they can, and he joined Kevin Gray to tell us how.
Tim, what's going on?
Kevin, what's up, man? I know you're in a better mood since the last time we talked because your team is rolling right now, playing great, reminding people who they are. Like Mufasa told Simba, remember who you are. They're remembering it right now. And I'm going to credit myself, Kevin. I'm going to give myself credit because I was hard on Luka. I was challenging Luka specifically. And look, they were winning games while he was out. That's when this thing started to turn. And I'm not saying they were better without him, but give them credit. They rose to the occasion when he went out, and he was struggling at that time. And they win games, get some momentum. He comes back, arguably his two best games of the year back to back. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think his legs got some needed rest because I thought the first 3 weeks represented sort of training camp for him. He didn't look like he was in top shape at the start of the season. He had some nagging injuries. He sits down for a short period of time. Now that like initial soreness and fatigue that you have when the season starts kind of goes away, but you're still in much better shape than you were at the start of the year, and the nagging injuries are gone. And it's shown the last two games. His efficiency was something I was waiting to see all year, and he finally gave it to him. And now you look up, they're absolutely rolling, and they've got a number of really quality wins here over the last 3 weeks.
They do. And for those who are watching this, we are having this conversation prior to the Mavericks taking on the Washington Wizards, as the Mavericks, of course, are 9-1 in their last 10 games. Tim, back on November 15th, this team was 5-7, 12th in the Western Conference, capping off what was a terrible 4-game losing streak with that bad loss in Utah. But since then, have only lost one time since mid-November, and a team that's now a season high 6 games above 500 at 14-8 as we have this conversation, have gone from 12th in the West to 3rd during that time. And oh, by the way, boys and girls, clinched a spot in the NBA Cup to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder next week for a chance to get to Vegas. For you, Tim, what has been the common thread in this turnaround for Dallas over the last 10 games that's seen them be playing so well right now?
I mean, their offense is just firing on all cylinders. It's amazing because I thought early in the year I did think Luka was a little bit of an anchor for them around their ankles because he has the ball so much. His usage rate is so high, and he was having just really inefficient nights. And it was there as a result, their offense was sort of stuck in the mud, and it wasn't connected. It was disjointed. And I think he also was going through like, hey, man, like I got to get myself going. And as a guy that's got the ball and is setting the table for other people, that jump ball goes in the air and you're thinking about getting yourself going. That's not necessarily the way to promote the type of offense and the ball movement and the flow that you want. They've got that now. Like they're just, everybody seems comfortable with their role. Everybody's contributing. They're getting really a lot of depth in terms of who is contributing on a nightly basis. And the turnaround has primarily been on that end of the floor. And that to me is what ultimately they're going to be. Look, they were a very good defensive team last year after they made the acquisitions of Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington. Like the metrics, the second half of the year or after the All-Star game were top 5 in the league, what they were doing defensively. They made some changes to their team. Derrick Jones Jr. leaves the team and you bring in Clay, like the identity changes a little bit. But beginning of the year, their defense was clouded by their offensive struggles. Now their defense can start to play better because their offense is better. You're forcing teams to take the ball out of the net more. That means you're setting up your half-court defense more often. And that's when they're going to be really good and really effective. So I think the two things are connected. Their offense has been a lot better. As a result, their defense is going to continue to creep up because beginning of the year, I didn't think their offense was giving their defense much of a chance.
A team in Dallas over their last 10 games, number 4 in the NBA in offensive rating and number 8 in the NBA in defensive rating. They've been flirting around that top 10 in both offensive and defensive rating throughout the course of the year. And now these wins are coming and backing up what we have seen from a numbers perspective, for this team. And you started to touch on it a little bit in terms of Luka Doncic. He's got 36 points in the game against Portland, drops another 37 against the Memphis Grizzlies. His legs seem under him. For you, what have you noticed physically about him continuing to get better, and what does that mean for the long-term success of this team now that it feels like he's getting into the kind of rhythm both offensively, and he even had 4 steals in the game against Memphis the other night as well in that game?
He just looks stronger. And when he's getting off the ground and getting into his step back move and getting into his when he gets downhill and he's got somebody, on his hip or on his shoulder, which, he does all the time, because it's not like he's got blow by speed. So typically when he gets downhill, somebody is still there, like in his space. He's not affected by that because he's so strong. But when his legs aren't as strong, those shots end up being more difficult, challenged, off balance. They don't look like they're the shot that he wants. And that's what Luka Doncic is all about. He's so patient offensively in getting what he wants at the end of those drives, at the end of the step back, the mid-range, whatever it may be. I don't think he was getting that earlier in the year. I thought he was settling for a shot half a count before he wanted to, because he didn't have the leg strength and conditioning. He wasn't fresh enough. Maybe he was dealing with some stuff that was bothering him from a pain perspective. That looks to me like it's gone now. He has looked like Luka at his best the last couple of games. Strong, decisive, getting off the floor. The other thing that happens, Kevin, when you aren't necessarily feeling great with your legs for whatever reason, injury or conditioning, whatever, when you don't time your release of the basketball the same every time, you just don't, because you're not getting off the ground the same height on every jump because your legs aren't firing. He looks now like the ball's coming off his fingertips in rhythm because he feels stronger. So the ball and the timing of the release coincides with what your jumping should be on that particular shot. He wasn't doing that at the beginning of the year. I think it was more like random acts every time he shot the ball. Now it looks like Luka at his best. So give him credit. He came back from this and he was determined that he had to be better, and he has been great.
Looking much more fluid on both ends of the floor, especially offensively, which obviously is a good sign for this Mavericks team. And Tim, he's been getting a lot of help and was getting help from his teammates when he wasn't on the floor, particularly PJ Washington. When you look at him, when he's done over the last 2.5 weeks, averaging over 15 points per game, shooting over 49% from the field, shooting nearly 53% from the three-point line, and oh, by the way, getting nearly 10 rebounds per contest as well, highlighted by what was a 27-17 game against Oklahoma City on the road. What has impressed you most about the development of PJ Washington and what he's been able to start to do, kind of being a Swiss Army knife for this team with his versatility on both ends of the floor?
Well, one of the things that's impressed me was just, this is not a guy that you would categorize as like, a high volume scorer. PJ Washington is more, and I love him. He's a jack of all trades, right? He does a little bit of everything for you, but he's not the type of guy that you're counting on necessarily for like supplemental offense or a certain number every night to give us a chance to win. It's not really who he is. So guys that are in that category that have a slow start to the year, which he did, and then he had, was out and then came back. Very rare you see a guy turn it around like that quickly offensively to where now he's been this consistent mainstay for them and what he's given them, because you're always going to count on the defense. You're always going to count on the awareness and the versatility and all of the things that he does to help you win. But now you just look at the production. It's one thing for those guys to show up every night and be who they are. That's enough to help you win. But now when you start like penciling in certain benchmarks from a production standpoint, now like you look at Dallas differently. With what you're already dealing with Luka and Kyrie, you got the two-headed monster in the middle and the pressure they put on you at the rim. You've got spacers and shooters out there that are specialists. Now you got this guy that's sort of in the middle, does a little bit of everything, but he's giving you this kind of production. Very rare to see like a role player start the year that slowly and then find this kind of a rhythm the way that he has. And I think it makes Dallas, when he's playing like this, Kevin, more of a legitimate title threat when you watch them play. Because it wasn't enough to go, Luka's spectacular, Kyrie. Is that enough to carry a team to a title? Like those two guys being great every night, or you need more. And PJ Washington as like that next scorer now, that's been very impressive for me because it's not really necessarily in his wheelhouse, but he's added it now with this team to give them that third scoring option that's been very consistent.
And he's been fantastic for this team, getting more and more confidence night in and night out about his ability to be a little bit of a playmaker, but as you mentioned, kind of a Swiss Army knife guy that can do a little bit of everything, passing the ball really well as well when it comes to PJ Washington. And Tim, one of the things that Mavericks fans have been really excited about is the depth of this team. It continues to flourish, it feels like, over the last couple of weeks, led by a guy like Najee Marshall, who in 3 NBA Cup games, averaging over 16 points per game, helping them get what was a really crucial win in Denver when he dropped 26 in that game. What are you thinking about as far as how good the depth is of this team, and where do you rank the Mavericks as far as one of the deepest teams in the league based off of the quality play of Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, Spencer Dinwiddie, who's been really playing well as well? Where do you rank them as some of the deepest teams in the league?
I mean, they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league in terms of depth. They got 11 guys averaging 15 minutes or more. I mean, it's very difficult to do that. Golden State has been doing that. That was obviously, Steve Kerr came out and said he was going to play 12. People kind of snickered, like, you can't do that in the NBA. You play 12 guys, nobody's in rhythm. Like, that's kind of how you feel about that. He's not been 12 consistently every night. It's been more like 11. And Dallas is kind of doing that too. And what that ultimately means is you're not overburdening anybody. And that's very important in a marathon year. And this team isn't expecting to have a good year or make the playoffs. They're expecting to win a championship. And their goal should be to win a championship. Their belief in themselves should be to do that. It's a long year. And when you have more guys contributing and eating up minutes and being productive and accepting roles and thriving, it just makes Jason Kidd's job. It's more difficult on a given night to push the right buttons because you have a lot of options there. But at the end of the day, it's going to make his job easier because I think your team is fresher overall. And that's very important in an 82-game season, particularly when you're expecting a 2-month run at the end of it.
And they're trying to win an NBA Cup as well. I want to get your quick thought on your overall thoughts on the Cup tournament itself. The format, obviously, is something that a lot of folks have a lot of conversations about. But for the most part, it feels like players really enjoy this tournament, finding the competitive elements of it. What have your thoughts been about the tournament and the way that players have responded to not just the games themselves, but what the tournament actually means for them?
Yeah. Well, first I want to give the players credit because they bought in, and I was skeptical when they announced this last year, and I didn't know, I know why they did it. The regular season has been diminished in terms of importance in a lot of ways because of really load management and injuries and players taking a long time to come back from injuries. And as a result, a lot of the games you expect to see on a nightly basis aren't materializing because certain guys are out a lot. So they wanted to see if they could somehow elevate the importance of these early regular season games for the networks, for the fans, for the sponsors, right? We want a better product. And I was skeptical, like, is that really going to make guys buy in? And yet here they were, man. And it's like Draymond Green said, I believe in the beginning, like, you put a bunch of alphas and professional athletes, and I don't care what the prize is. You put even a little trophy you got at the local trophy shop for $8 and you put it on a table. Guys want to win it. And look, money, yeah, that's nice. I don't think the money was any incentive. I think it was like just the competitiveness of winning. And they bought in last year. They've bought in this year. The games were great. I expect this. I love all 4 of these first round matchups. I think you could make an argument that any one of those games could be the best game of the first round, but it looks like OKC Dallas on paper probably is going to get that claim. And I'm going to go out there on a limb and I say, I think the winner of that game wins the whole cup. That's how important I think that game is. But all 4 matchups are compelling, and you got 7 of the 8 teams coming in absolutely red hot. And I'm talking about like on fire hot. You got Milwaukee 9 out of 11, Orlando 13 out of 15, the Knicks 8 out of 10, Atlanta 5 in a row, OKC 5 out of 6, Dallas 9 out of 10, Houston 10 out of 13. I mean, you're talking red hot. And then you got the Warriors who are struggling at 5 straight losses, but had a great start to the year. So you've got those 7 teams are 60 and 11 in their last 71 games. You're talking about the hottest of the hot coming together that should give us an epic quarters, semis, and then eventually a final. And I said, again, I think the winner, Dallas OKC, has a great chance to win the whole thing.
Yeah, to underscore that point, 3 out of the 4 teams on the West side are the top 3 teams in the Western Conference. We're talking about Oklahoma City, Dallas, and Houston, the way that they've been playing, and obviously Golden State there as well. So it should be a fun tournament as we get to the knockout stages, the semifinals, and hopefully for Dallas fans, an opportunity to be in Vegas for the NBA Cup. Tim, as always, my man, I appreciate your time. Mavericks fans are excited about what this team is doing. I'm sure, look, the way that you were able to look at this team and evaluate them and what they've done, it's been fun to watch this team start to put it all together, and look forward to more pleasant conversations when it comes to this Mavericks team. So as always, my man, thank you so much.
Anytime. Appreciate you having me, Kevin.
Tim Legler, you are the freaking best. Kevin Gray, you're also cool too. But Tim Legler, oh my God. When he talks Mavs, I want to listen. Coming up next, Tim and I are going to hang out with Chad a little bit. Drop your questions in there if you want to know anything, because Marc Stein is going to be joining us soon here on the DLLS Mavs Podcast. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Sleeper. It's the best fantasy league platform out there, but you can put your ball knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less than their projected stats each week or each Mavs game. This year in Mavs games, I'm 2-3. Which is a losing record, unfortunately, unlike the team on the floor. But thanks to the fact that with Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. I'm 2-3, and I'm still up on the year, baby. If you want to join in on the fun, hey, what's the Mavs' next game? At Toronto? Toronto has a pretty decent defense, but the way Luka's cooking, whatever his PRA is, I'm going to go way more than that. But tune into the show tomorrow to find out what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. And if you think you have what it takes, download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Mavs. For a limited time, new users can now get their first deposit matched 100% up to $1,500, the largest deposit match offer ever. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for detail. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
If you want the best sports gear around, you got to go to FOCO. They've got hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. I'm looking right now at their page. Yep, bobbleheads. I see it. They've got a Snoopy Big Head bobblehead. Oh no, it's sold out, but I'm sure it'll be back.
Barnacles.
They've got tote bags. They've got drawstring bags. We've got T-shirts. They've got everything that you're looking for if you're trying to get fitted out in the best gear around. If you're going to a basketball or hockey game, show off your love with a team-branded friendship bracelet. They've got beachwear. They've got overalls. There is something for fans for almost every occasion. Check out foco.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-pre-sale items, use the promo code DLLS10 for 10% off the best sports gear around.
Beautifully said, Tim. Coming up in about 10 minutes, Marc Stein is going to join us from somewhere on the internet. I don't know where he is. I don't even know if he's in this country. I'll have to ask him and find out. But first, we're going to take some chat questions and some fan questions. You know, I'm sure y'all are all...
We're just going to talk a little bit.
How's your day?
It's going great. How's yours?
It's pretty good.
We don't talk enough.
It's pretty good.
I got yours in a second.
I got a bag of food sitting over there. I'm going to eat it so quickly as soon as the stream is over.
Okay, well, don't eat it too quickly.
I'm not going to eat it too quickly. I'm going to eat it responsibly.
Yeah.
Eat responsibly.
Yeah. Is it porridge?
So Coop in the chat asks, how is Najee doing and what is the timeline for Dante Exum? Hopefully Mark is going to have some answers whenever he joins. Otherwise, you and I would just be guessing. But there was a question from Luke. It's kind of a two-parter. I think they're sort of related. Luke is a diehard, by the way. Shout out to our diehards. Luke asked, how can the Mavs get Maxi to shoot the basketball? And then kind of a related one, any trade targets for a backup wing /4. Of course, one of my big takes, Tim, is that PJ Washington just plays way too many gosh dang minutes. They need to figure that out because it's a long season.
Yeah, obviously Maxi's been locked into the rotation. It's been the past couple games where I feel like Maxi's offense, or lack thereof, has actually hurt the team a bit.
Normally not the case. Normally not. Even if he's not shooting, I don't think it's bad, but it is different.
It's felt different. It felt like teams are fully understanding that this is a guy who's not going to shoot. I thought against Memphis, especially when Memphis was building leads and Maxi was on the court, I thought it really stood out in a really negative way in those ways. I usually believe, and I know there's fans out there who disagree, but I usually believe that Maxi's defense outweighs his offense, and that sometimes his offense is, last season, it was a lot better. But this is different than a shooting slump. I agree. He's just not shooting. I don't get it. just let it fly. And like he gets the ball and he's instantly looking to pass it, or if he has to do something with it, he's trying to drive, which is something that, even the best versions of Maxi was not a drive first player. And he was always shoot first, and he was always, had his skills as a roller and in other ways, but that's just, it's not there right. I don't know. I don't understand why that shot won't go up. I think if I had to come up with an answer, I'm not saying this is for sure what's happening. I haven't really talked to anybody about, kind of their assessments of it. I do think that when he doesn't trust his body, that, it does get into the confidence, and he's such a confidence player with the shot that it just has an overarching effect on, or maybe his lower body stuff is affecting his shot. I don't know, but it's something I would like to ask around here in the, when the team's back in town and I'm around them, or when I'm on the road with them. But it's been frustrating because he's always been a player I've really enjoyed watching. I know you have too.
Yeah. Especially as a backline guy playing alongside Lively, now that Lively's stepping out on the perimeter more, doing a little more switching, showing, playing at the level of the screen, things like that. You do need some sort of size behind him in case he gets blown by, or there's a cutter, you swing the ball, reverse it, whatever. Maxi's really good in that regard. I don't think, at this stage of his career, he can necessarily switch off onto, 5 years ago, he was switching off on Harden and like winning those battles,
He was the team's best defender against Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, and he did a really good job against KD, like Warriors era KD. Like he was a really, really good switchable perimeter
defender. But even
defender.
this year, he did a pretty decent job against Kawhi.
Yeah,
for this, again, a super limited version of Kawhi in the playoffs.
Yeah,
but like this year, we've had proof of concept that he's not. He still has it in him to be decent. It's just we're seeing it less and less.
Yeah, and with him coming off the bench now, and now that Gafford is the bench big, I don't necessarily think that duo is particularly dynamic at either end of the floor, because Maxi, if he's playing power forward alongside Gafford is not going to step out. They play drop with Gafford, so Maxi's then having to switch a lot, do a lot of stuff on the perimeter, so he's not really playing to his strengths. And then offensively, Gafford and Maxi is a three-point shooter, but he's being treated as a non-shooter. And so it's really what you do is more defined by how the defense defends you than what you can actually do. Right, and if the defense treats you like a non-shooter, you are, for all intents and purposes, a non-shooter. So things get pretty clunky on offense too. So
and he is a non-shooter right now. You have to actually take shots to even be a shooter, no matter how defenses are treating you. He's not even taking shots.
Yeah, and it sucks to see, because I love Maxi the player. I love Maxi the guy. But, if the Mavs are going to look to shore up that spot, which I think they should, whether they trade Maxi in that deal or not, I think they do need to add another 4, because PJ is he's playing too many minutes, and he's too important to be playing this many minutes right now. The market starts in earnest on December 15th, but it really doesn't start until closer to the deadline. There are some guys available.
Unless you're Rajon Rondo.
Yeah.
And you want to blow up a really fun team.
Yeah, that was a great one. They definitely should have done that. But Larry Nance is a name that a lot of Mavs fans like. There's some others too. If you look around, there's some, but I don't really think that there's a guy that's available that does what PJ does, that can give you the PJ thing. So unlike Gafford and Lively giving you 48 minutes of shot blocking and dunking, you're not going to be able to get 48 minutes of PJ Washington. It's just not going to happen. So, in your opinion, do they need to prioritize doing that? Because there aren't many guys available, I don't think, this year. There aren't many teams that are going to be trying to buy guys. And so you might have really steep prices for players that are marginally better than Maxi. Is that worth giving up one of your few first-round picks, or one of your really good second-round picks? Is it worth it?
You want an annoying answer?
Yes. No,
it just depends on the player and the price. I don't know. Throw actual trade ideas at me, and I know we're just speculating.
Are you giving up a first-round pick for Larry Nance or Dorian? Let's say it's Maxi, a first-round pick, and then money to match. So that could be. I don't know if those match or not, but let's assume that they perfectly match. But it's Maxi and a 1 in 2025 for Dorian or Larry Nance.
For this year's draft?
Yes.
I think I probably would, just because this team needs to. We just talked about how this might be, the best team. One of the best Dallas teams we've ever seen, maybe the best Dallas team we've ever seen. You can make a marginal improvement in that way. Any player you acquire, you have to look at them very carefully and say, do they play playoff minutes? I have no interest in a player who is not for sure factoring in the postseason.
I think Dorian definitely can. I think Larry Nance can.
Right.
I think he might be able to do some small ball 5 stuff too.
Right. I mean, he's shot it better increasingly throughout his career to the point that, he's a threat out there. He provides you a secondary role guy. I do really like Larry Nance. He was someone I liked a couple seasons ago.
Yeah.
And when New Orleans loved him and just, even though he wasn't, he was a bench guy for them, but a couple seasons ago, like, that's not a player that, New Orleans was willing to really consider trading just because of the contract, because of the role, because he didn't have huge value. Obviously you could have, but New Orleans loved him. They gave him up in a bigger deal as this team clearly needed some change. But I like him a lot. I think he would make a lot of sense on this team. But
Chad is blowing up with no's. Chad really values the pick, which I understand. Cost controlled contract. Also,
and that's a good point. Like, the CBA is only going to get trickier.
Yeah, so. And if let's say you get the 25th pick, that's like $2.5-3 million, which could matter if it comes to trade matching for a better player this summer. I mean, it's an interesting conversation. I would say they shouldn't be in a rush. Whenever you're in a rush, you overpay.
Yeah,
but then if you wait till the deadline, you overpay too. So just find that sweet spot.
Right. And it's I don't, like if Maxi is just not viable as the season goes along, I think you can just, get rid of his role in the rotation. I know you're saying Najee's playing a lot of minutes, but if Exum's going to come back. I view Exum's return as he's going to return as, someone who plays as kind of a wing defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can fit into a lot of lineups. I don't think that, he's 6'5" and a good defender. And
it's almost like adding a free agent.
Shut up. How many times have we heard that?
Too many.
We love our boys in blue.
I had to nod along and say, you know what? So true. So valid.
I think Exum can push Najee more into, he's a 3-4. So he's backing up PJ, but he's also, backing up Klay Thompson. And Exum is a 2-3. You're getting a little bit smaller, but I don't know. I think that size, I don't want to say our phrase with that.
It's not a Blue Chew Friday, but I'll say it. Size matters. In the regular season,
I was going to say size
does.
is only size when it's sizing. But that feels somehow worse than size matters.
All right. Well, let's get Marc Stein on the line here and see what he has, because he might have some details. I don't want to oversell it. He might not. There's only one way to find out, though, and that's to stick around on the other side of this break to see what Marc has and from where in the hell he's joining.
I think it went
on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
No, it went quick.
We're here. And I'm here to tell you about becoming a diehard. You go to alldls.com/diehard, or you click the link in the description below, or you can scan that QR code that's in a different spot now that I'm in the host chair and I feel so powerful here. Then you can become a diehard. Hey, all of our pregame, all of our postgame shows, all of our daily shows from here at the DLS Sports Studio are going to be free on YouTube from now until the end of time. But you want to take your sport one step further for what we're doing here, then you can become a diehard, where for less than $7 a month, you can gain access to our entire website, all of our paywalled written content, post-game analysis, breakdowns, features, profiles, opinions, columns, maybe some film stuff coming there too. You can also join the DLLS Discord Lounge, where people ask Joe Hoyt all sorts of life questions, and where producer John Anderson never stops slandering Dallas sports because he's a Boston fan for some reason. And you can also get a free t-shirt when you sign up, including the one that I'm wearing. I love this logo. Wait a minute. That made it worse. I just think it's a lovely shirt. I'm excited to wear it. I also got a Stars one. Hey, I bought a Dallas Wings colorway one. I got a hoodie. There's all sorts of stuff on there. You get a free one of your choice whenever you sign up, and you also get a discount on any other stuff you want to purchase. You get a discount on live events when we get those going, which I think is going to be kind of soonish. And you also get a physical diehard card. Kevin Gray's favorite part, Marc Stein's favorite part as well. I don't know if this is what Kevin does, right, Tanner? Grab yourself a physical diehard card, show it off, show it on social media.
Hey, be
tag
yourself,
us
Bobby.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to be Kevin. You can host your own way.
There's only one Kevin Gray. There's also only one Bobby Carella. Thank you. Shout out to all our diehards, including the newest ones. Shout out Matthew, Austin, Jarrett, Mark, Harry, and TJ Shout out, y'all. All of our diehards are the best. I love you all so very much from the bottom of my achy breaky heart. Oh my God, there he is. Wow.
Mark,
First off, that's Marc Stein, everyone. Secondly, where are you, man, and what are you doing?
I am in Toronto, Canada.
International.
Where the Dallas Mavericks are. They practiced today. I was not at practice. I made a detour last night to my beloved Buffalo. I was a Western New York resident for the early years of my sports geekiness, and I think you guys know because you guys saw my interactions with the DLS hockey squad when the Sabres beat the Stars earlier this season. So I think you guys know I'm a Sabres fan. I made what is pretty much like a once-a-year visit to Buffalo last night. Took a dagger 3-2 defeat in overtime from the Winnipeg Jets. Behaved very irrationally. I hope no cameras were on me. It was not pretty. I just totally fanned out. Shout out Game Time. I got my tickets on Game Time. Incredible seats. I was like lower level in the corner. Just seats were ridiculous. Some of the best seats I've ever had at a hockey game in my life.
but you knew that before you even sat down.
Yeah.
Because you can see your seat. You can see the sight lines.
It's true, but it was even better. It was great in the picture, and it was even better in real life.
That's awesome, man.
Like I said, I don't think I've ever had a better seat at a hockey game. Unfortunately, the ending was an absolute dagger, but I had a close family member who lives in Toronto. Alon Markovich came with his son Eli to watch the game with me, and then we drove on the QEW Buffalo to Toronto. So I got to Toronto. I beat the Mavs at Toronto. And Bobby, I heard your Dante Exum question. I promise, like I said, I did not make it to the gym today. I promise you it will be at the top of my notebook tomorrow when I am with these guys in the Scotiabank Center. I promise I will get you a detailed Dante Exum update. It is high on my list of Saturday priorities now.
That's good to hear, man. I mean, a lot of fans want to know that, especially after what happened to Jaden Hardy last night. Now, I don't know if you have any update on that. I don't know if the Mavs have even provided any substantial update on that, but no
It
official
would have come
word.
today. Let me look.
Honestly, all I can tell you, the team did practice today. You would think after a 30-something point destruction of the worst team in the league, and honestly, what is probably one of the worst teams we've ever seen, if you look at their point differential numbers. After a game like that, I thought the Mavs might have managed an off day today, but they did not. They had a formal practice at the Raptors facility, but like I said, I was not there. And so all of my newsy Mavs updates, I'm afraid I will start getting updates after this show goes off the air, unfortunately. But tomorrow, when I join you from, isn't that what it is now? It's still Air Canada Center to me, but isn't it Scotiabank Center now?
Yes.
Wherever I figure out where to do tomorrow's hit, I promise that I will have a notebook worthy of DLLS Mavs. I promise.
I don't think that's what it's called. Oh, it's the Scotiabank Arena.
Dang it!
Not the Scotiabank Centre. The Scotiabank Centre.
Probably look out the window and see it, but I knew Scotiabank was in there somewhere.
Yeah, the Centre is located in Halifax. We had a viewer from Halifax, I think, last night or maybe the night before. I don't remember. Mark,
how was right after a competitive game?
It was business. It was business as usual. We ran out of stuff to talk about 7.5 minutes into the postgame show. So the rest of the show was
not me.
A labor of love.
I always have stuff to talk about. I can yap for days. How's the weather up there? Sarah asked that in the chat, but I'm also asking.
When I landed Thursday night in Buffalo, it was, if you saw any of Bills 49ers, that's what it was. Woo. It was really coming down. First significant snowfall in Buffalo proper. because Orchard Park, where the Bills play, is a little bit removed, just a tiny bit removed. Yes, it was, but I love it like this, especially when I'm only dealing with it for 2 or 3 days. I love the cold, love busting out all kinds of Buffalo gear that I never get to wear at home because it's too damn hot. And so, yeah, I just packed like every bit of Sabres gear that I have, and I've just been walking around like an absolute fanboy. And I definitely do it here in Toronto because, you know, the Sabres and the Leafs don't really love each other. So I do like to be provocative in my Sabres gear as I strut around. I have not been to Toronto since pre-COVID, and this is one of my absolute favorite cities on the NBA map. And so the chance to come here, the Mavs are here all day today, game tomorrow night. So they're parked here for a minute. Great chance to catch up with them and hit one of my favorite spots.
Taking trolling to the international level, and I really respect that. I appreciate that. It's never a bad thing to fan out. I think that's the lesson.
You don't have to check your trolling at customs.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to claim that, buddy. You can just take that right on through.
In fact, Alon, who was with me yesterday, he's not really my cousin, but our fathers were incredibly close friends, and so we've always been, we've always treated each other like family, even though we're not officially family. But even he said, it was like, wow, it is really weird to see fan Marc Stein. And I'm like, yeah, it's not pretty. It's not.
I mean, are you like standing up, giving guys the finger, or like what are you doing?
No, I'm just agonizing. The Sabres have the longest playoff drought in the NHL, and just, the other night they played the Avalanche 2 nights ago, had a 4-zip lead at home and lost. Really hard to do in modern hockey. And then outplayed the Jets last night, lost in overtime, but the officials on the ice, like I said, it was. I really hope there was no footage because I was the officiating all night. We lost a goal on a goalie interference call. They had a goal stand on a goalie interference call. It was not pretty, and I was not pretty. I was seething.
I think you're good. It's no MSG. There's no James Dolan up there. They're not doing facial recognition tracking. I think you're in the clear.
Yeah.
I hope.
So we don't have too much time.
My soul needed it. Like sometimes you need like, in the NBA, wherever I step in the arena, all emotions are checked at the door, and I'm trying to be a portrait of neutrality. So it is fun to go to a sporting event in Buffalo and just let it go.
That exact thing is what got me into soccer.
Being able to blend in with the crowd. So, Mark, we don't have a lot of time left, actually. This show has flown by, but I don't know if you heard or saw the KG interview with Tim Legler, but Legs is really, really high in what the Mavs are doing right now, and how can't you be? They've won 10 of their last 11 games. And I want to tie it back to your Substack. We're coming into the year, you had the Mavs ranked 3rd, and then they go through this, doldrum period in early to mid-November, and in your most recent, I don't want to spoil it, but I think they were ranked 6th, if I'm not mistaken. So
it ran Tuesday. You're not spoiling anything, and it's funny. Most of the comments that I got from people were angry Mavs fans that the Mavs were not at number 5 ahead of Orlando. My thinking was Orlando just went 12-1 without Paolo, and there was some strength of schedule help there. It's not like they were, beating Cleveland 5 times among those 12 wins. But to me, you go 12-1 without a guy who scored 50 points about 5 minutes into the season and was already getting people raving about him as an all-NBA guy, and you lose Banchero to a long-term injury very early in the season. And we saw with our own eyes how bad Orlando looked here without Paolo in the early stretch. For Orlando to rebound, they started 3-6 and then reeled off 12 wins out of 13. I felt like Orlando deserved that top 5 spot over the Mavs because their run has been so good without Banchero. But look, are the Mavs right now?
No, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there for a really good reason. Because Tanner,
Fast Channel 59 alert. Fast Channel 59 alert.
we gotta hit that. If you're watching on Fast Channels, I'm gonna pry the truth out of Marc Stein. Where will the Mavs rank in his next power ranking? So tune into the YouTube for that. If you're watching on YouTube, don't go anywhere. Hey, all right, Mark. So now what's the deal? Thank you. I was so excited to do that.
and I'll say real quick, just to play off this. It is a matter of perspective where I think Orlando has been more impressive in this regular season, what they've done so far. Compare their regular season and what they're doing, how they're surviving without Paolo, as compared to what Dallas has done. Who certainly survived without Luka, but had some inconsistency before that. I think that's all fair and true. And I think if you're just looking at the regular season, then Orlando is absolutely deserving to be ranked ahead of where Dallas has been in the regular season. And again, this was also 2 days ago, before Dallas added a couple more wins. What I would say is that Dallas, in what they've done this season, it looks much more like a title contender to me than what Orlando has done. So it's all about, are you power ranking what teams have done lately in the regular season? It's a power ranking. You're not trying to say who are the top tier, let's rank the title contenders of the league. You're just power ranking where teams are so far in the regular season and what they've done so far. To me, though, even if you want to put Orlando ahead, and I think I might, I would say that Dallas has done a lot more in terms of proving themselves as a team that's going to keep getting better and is a threat once you get to May and June.
Yeah, and that was kind of like the theme of Legs' conclusion too, is like over this last 11 games, it's not just that the Mavs are winning, it's like how they're winning, it's guys stepping up, they can beat you in so many different ways and all that. And so Mavs fans wake up this morning after last night's rout of the Wizards, Mark, and they're like, this is maybe the deepest Mavs team ever. This is maybe the best Mavs team ever. This team is definitely a title contender and all those things. Are you there yet with them, or is there still more that you need to see or more that you need to learn from them before you think like this team is in the inner circle of teams that can win it all?
Well, look, you guys know me by now. I'm resistant to those grandiose conclusions because we just, by the nature of our show, we do a post-game show after every game. And so that leads us into this mode of drawing conclusions every single night, which is just a bad idea in a league with an 82-game schedule. It is really dangerous to draw conclusions that often. But specifically about the power rankings, and Tim mentioned it, I'm glad you said it, and I'm just going to expound on it. When I did the power rankings at ESPN, and I did them for 15 years, that was a once a week, every Monday, 26 times a year situation. And I can't help but point this out because I love pointing it out, and excuse my vanity here, but it's like I always called myself the committee of one, and it was just something that it just became a thing. But after I left, they literally do it with a committee of like 10 people now, and I'm just like, man, I didn't realize. You guys see now, rankings actually is quite a bit of work, guys, to like have something informative to say about all 30 teams every Monday. But that's all. That was just a needless flex. On my Substack,
nothing ever wrong with that.
On Substack, I only do them once a month or so. So it's taking into account a larger picture, and that's why Orlando, because that 12-1 run they went on spanned a good bit of time, and I just felt like they should have been rewarded for that. But as Tim rightly noted, those rankings came out before the Memphis game, which was the best fourth quarter comeback in the NBA this season. The Mavs were down 15 in the fourth quarter, and we saw what they did in the last 3 minutes. I'm sure had the rankings come out the morning after that, the Mavs would have been at least fifth and probably higher because that win was such a statement. And what's great news for the Mavs, they've now had OKC without Luka, Denver without Luka, the way they pounded the Knicks, the comeback against Memphis. They have multiple wins now that jump off the page and are great for their resume. And they do make you inevitably think ahead and what this team is capable of down the road. There's no question. Here we go, and I know everyone's going to jump on me in the chat, but you can't not mention the Utah loss and how low and how worried everyone was on our show, in the chat room, in the Mavs fan base, and I think rightfully so. At 5-7 with that Utah loss, things were already looking bleak. And the way they have rebounded from that,
Literally
9-1, and just, is it 9-1 or 10-1?
10-1.
10-1.
I know the
10-1.
Wizards don't really count, but they do in the standings.
It's 9.5-1 then.
I mean, they have rebounded in the just most impressive way. And again, 4 wins out of that group that just make you say, hey, they did something there. And we're all looking forward. I mean, I would not look past the Raptors because, again, they are a tough out at home. And RJ Barrett is a walking 30 points the minute he sees that Scotiabank Arena sign. So, I wouldn't skip steps and just assume they're going to win this Toronto game. But I know we are all thinking about OKC on Tuesday night and the opportunity the Mavs have to book a trip to Vegas. I mean, it's hard not to think about that.
And both games in Oklahoma City come on the second night of a back-to-back, or the ones that were originally scheduled. And sure, Dallas already won one of those games. And on Tuesday, Chet Holmgren is going to be the biggest absence, we assume, for either team. So, of course, there's qualifiers. But I'm glad that we get a game between what I believe will be the best 2 teams in the Western Conference. Stop that. What the 2 best teams in the Western Conference, we have multiple days off leading into a huge clash with stakes on the table early in the regular season. This is awesome. And this is something that is only happening because of the NBA Cup. This is the first time where I've seen a direct cause and effect of turned the regular season into an event that I am so locked in for. This Tuesday game, Dallas will get back on Sunday night, and then they'll have time to prep for it. Obviously, it's still a semi-quick turnaround, but at least Oklahoma City is just right up there, and that's awesome. This is exciting, and it's like I said, it's not. There's no asterisks of Dallas was on a second night of a back-to-back, or OKC was on the second night of a back-to-back. It's just a highly competitive, highly meaningful, and highly should be entertaining game between this conference 2 best teams. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I agree. Don't look past Toronto. If you're Dallas in that locker room, that's the coach's job. For us in these seats, I cannot wait for Tuesday. I think that's going to be, the game of the year so far. I think there's a real chance. I mean, fine. Okay. Boston and Cleveland probably gets that title, but this is pretty much one of the best games that's been played all season already. And it should be really fun.
We will be there no matter what.
Watch along.
Let me just add one thing.
I was going to promote that later.
My issue, you guys know my issues with the Cup. It's the group stage. It's the group stage is 60 games of just regular season games counting twice. And ESPN plays the LL Cool J, Mama Said Knock You Out, even though it's not knockout. It's not even separate games. But now we are to the knockout round. This is where it does become a tournament. This is where it gets good. And for all the reasons Tim just stated, that's why I want more knockout games in the Cup. Because it just when you get 2 teams playing for a winner-take-all scenario, that's what the NBA doesn't have, and that's why it's fun. We don't see this situation. And so, Tuesday night, it's going to be really interesting because once the teams get this far, they want to go to Vegas. It's not just the money. They want to go to Vegas. Tuesday night is going to be fierce. I have no doubt.
It's going to be awesome. Hey, Mark, tomorrow night's going to be fun for you too. Up in Toronto, make sure you get a very, very thick coat. It looks really cold, and have a good time at the game tomorrow night. And we'll see you back in Dallas at some point.
Don't worry about me. I'm very close to the arena. So
good. Okay.
We never would.
Good. All right, Mark.
That sounded
have
mean.
a good. Oh, bye, Mark.
That's what I mean. We never would worry about.
I'm never worried about you.
I meant I trust Mark that he's always going to have his stuff figured out, and that he's a responsible person. That's how I meant it.
Hey, you're trying to save it. You're good. You're doing great.
But
you're doing
it
great.
did sound like it was just like, Mark, we don't care about you. I didn't mean
Speaking
it like
of
that, I
that
promise.
NBA Cup on Tuesday night,
Promise.
we will
Promise.
be doing a watch along. We'll be doing our first ever watch along. You can watch us watch the game or watch the game with us. I don't really know how we're supposed to promote that, but it is going to be here. We're still going to have a pregame show. We're going to end that stream, and then we're going to start a watch along stream where you're going to get raw, unfiltered us for about 2.5 hours, and then we will stop that stream and do the postgame show. So we're going to have 2 polished broadcasts, and in between, we're going to have 2.5 hours of criticizing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's foul baiting. And there's only one way to find out what we really think about all those guys, and that's to tune into that. So do that on Tuesday night, plan accordingly. But Mark is right. There's a whole game, and Tim is right. There's a whole game to play between now and then. That is tomorrow. We will have your pre and post tomorrow night as well. But in the meantime, I have a meeting I have to go to, and if I miss it, I'm going to get yelled at by people that make a lot more money than I do. So shout out to Marc Stein. Shout out Kat. Kat, where are you?
Cat.
Did Kat go home maybe? Oh, hey, shout out you, Kat, for joining the show. Shout out to Tim Legler. Shout out to Kevin Gray. Dude, today was a huge show. We had so many people on. Shout out Tanner, our producer. Shout out to y'all for watching, for hanging with us on this glorious Friday afternoon. And we will see you on Saturday night at 6 p.m., I think.
6:30. Well, yeah, 6 for pregame. Yes,
6
sir.
for the
Yes,
pregame
yes.
show as the Mavs prepare to take on players that are not dinosaurs, but they wear dinosaurs on their jersey. Until then, you
Players
be
that
awesome.
Are slower than horses.
That is so true. Until then, y'all are awesome. I'm Bobby. Enjoy your weekend. And this has been a pretty on the rails episode of the DLLS Mavs Podcast.
You did a great job hosting.
I'm going to try really hard to stick this landing right now, but in the past, that has been my issue.
See ya.
I'm running out of things to say. Y'all
Bye.
enjoy
Bye.
Yep.
We all silly like the mayor.